Hello, welcome to Zoonosis with Joy. I'm Joy, and today we're going to be finding out what's eating Sue. So this is a little bit about Tyrannosaurus, about the pigeons and falcons that we have today, and the infectious disease that might bind them all. Let's go back in time, 64 million years, to the end of the Cretaceous, the Maastrichtian, the time in North America where we see Tyrannosaurus. Tyrannosaurus rex is one of the most famous dinosaurs of all time. It was a large, carnivorous, probably predatory animal, and just like our Allosaurus we talked about with the Big Al video, Tyrannosaurus may have had an infectious disease. In fact, we may know exactly which infectious disease, maybe even the exact species. So in about 15% of these guys, they have weird lesions on their bones of their jaw, and they're in very one specific spot in the dentary near the back of the jaw. Normally in animals, we see if they have bite wounds, it's in the front of the mouth. You know, dogs nip each other on the face, crocodiles nip each other on the face as well, and they're related to dinosaurs. But these ones were in the back of the mouth, and about 15% of dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus had that. We know that Sue from the Chicago Field Museum, they also had these lesions as well. So they're pretty commonly documented in the Tyrannosaurus. And until 2009, it wasn't really exactly known why they had them. The closest modern analog to these lesions would be something like Actinomyces bovis, which is a common pathogen of cattle. So what happens with them is they'll get a wound on the inside of their mouth. Bacteria will cause abscesses in the bone, and that can cause these holes that form in the jaw. They seem to have a very similar disease process in these guys. However, Actinomyces bovis is not really known from birds or from crocodiles. And it doesn't really match anything else, like a pox virus or any other kind of thing, too. We also know that birds and crocodiles have a very different immune system than mammals do. Unlike a dog or a human where we, if we get a big infection, we have a pus abscess. So it's neutrophils go in to kill all the bacteria or other infectious agent or foreign body, and they form this nice thick green like slime stuff, which we call pus. In the biz, we call it purulent discharge. Same thing. Birds and crocodiles, they actually form a wall of fibrin. Fibrin is basically just connective, like protein fibers, and that's basically to wall off the source of infection. And they basically will destroy the bone around it. So that seems to be what's happening here. But what organism exactly might be causing that? Well, the answer might be that it's called Trichomonas gallinae. This is a protozoan, so a eukaryotic cellular organism with a nucleus and genetic material with these nice little flagella that commonly infects pigeons and falcons. In pigeons, we call it frounce, and in falcons, we call it canker. It's been known about for centuries. Pigeon fanciers and falconers have had all these sort of, they used to document it a lot, and they often had remedies like, vinegar or alcohol tinctures or herbal remedies to help treat it, but they didn't really know what caused it until 1878, where it was first identified. They had microscopes back then, so they could actually see these things. They're not super small, they're larger than most of our bacteria, but they seem to infect the mouth and the throat area. This can cause these thick, yellow kind of granulomas, like I mentioned earlier. They're kind of caseous, so like cheese-like, which is kind of gross. And they can actually impede eating and cause the animal to lose weight. They can make the animal feel very sick and vomiting and diarrhea. They often lose weight. Their crop, which is an outpocketing of their esophagus, can become distended. And these animals can often have the infection spread to other parts of the body. The most common site of that would be the liver, but also into the lungs or to the spleen or the kidneys, and then also the bones of the face too, which we'll get to here in a second. Commonly, pigeons get this by regurgitating into, the mouths of their offspring. So the parents, they will go and eat something. They'll find something in their environment, they'll eat it, swallow it whole, and then they find their babies. Here's a baby T-Rex for comparison. And the baby T-Rex wants some food from mama, and it'll open its mouth. I'm playing with toys here, whatever. And it wants some food, and then the mama will regurgitate into the mouth of the baby. So this is how pigeons might usually transmit it to one another. Their squabs will ask for food, and then the parents will regurgitate it into their mouths, spreading this protozoan. Falcons usually get it by eating animals like pigeons. They usually get it that way. Another common site is actually bird feeders and bird baths. So this doesn't usually survive in the environment for more than 24 hours or so, but in moist bird seed or in bird baths, these little flagellated protozoans can swim around happily and not dry out or desiccate. And this can actually infect lots of songbirds. Typically the finches in the UK are really predisposed to this, and they're actually having major population losses. Trichomonas gallinae is actually, causes major outbreaks in pigeon farms in some cases, up to 50% mortality with some strains of it. And nowadays we treat it with metronidazole, and it can actually be cured in these animals. However, they may still be carriers for long terms afterwards. Even if they're not clinically sick, they may still have the protozoan. And this means that many times when there's an outbreak at a pigeon farm, they have to clean the entire barn and sometimes even cold all the animals in the barn, which can be very economically devastating. It's also very emotionally devastating for these pigeon fanciers. Now, is this what causes the disease in the T-Rex? Impossible to say for sure. Obviously, the same species living for 64 million years without any major evolutionary change is quite remarkable. But it is strongly possible because there's not really anything else that causes lesions like this. Like I said, it will invade the bone in in birds, so it could actually do the same thing in dinosaurs potentially. And this could tell us a little bit about T-Rex. Now, we assume that T-Rex probably had a similar immune system to birds and crocodilians. I mean, crocodiles have an immune system. They share a common ancestor with dinosaurs. Birds are dinosaurs, so we have to assume that they had a very similar immune system to them. And if that's the case, then maybe T-Rex were giving it to their offspring and, regurgitating. Maybe they had a crop or some sort of, feeding their offspring with their mouth in any case. And then the offspring would be getting it that way. And then start getting lesions on the inside of their jaw and in the back of their mouth, this yellow, thick, cheese-like sort of infection, which is quite gross. Now, Wolf et al. In 2009, when they described this, they also mentioned that cannibalism may be a possibility. We know that T-Rex used to like to nibble on each other. Maybe they were just love bites. Maybe they were just, fighting each other. But it's possible they were eating each other, just kind of like how falcons eat pigeons today. And that's one way they could have become infected too. So what this tells us is that, we can see evidence of disease processes and parasites long into the evolutionary past. And it's likely that many of the species that exist today existed deep in history. And we know that since birds are dinosaurs, it must have come from somewhere, and maybe the dinosaurs had it as well. So that's all I had for today. I realized that this has actually been about a year since I started the YouTube channel. I have nearly 500 subscribers. Thank you everyone who stuck around so far. Plenty more videos in the year to come, and leave any comments or suggestions in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time. Peace.